Hello everyone, I'm George from Ireland. So one of my very loyal viewers, she suggested that I just have that sign on, hello everyone. Salutations was pretentious. I wanted to be unique, but I think I overreached myself. So this video is about the twin curses of Trump and coronavirus. So the United States is exceptionally unfortunate to suffer either of these things, but to suffer both at the same time is just extraordinarily unlucky, and the two exacerbate each other. Trump's misdirection of policy is going to cause coronavirus to spread much more than it otherwise would do. And coronavirus is leading to Trump saying some really moronic things, I mean, maybe even worse than usual, as he struggles to comprehend the situation or to deal with it. He's listening to doctors and then latching on to one word and then spewing out drivel related to that. Now, I've often lamented typically Trumpian totally toxic twaddle. But on this occasion, his twaddle was literally toxic, as in telling people to inject themselves with disinfectants. You know, lead by example, Donald. I'd love to see you do it. Looks like the only person in the world who's followed that advice is Kim Jong-un. Okay, I'm being a bit flippant. The North Korean despot has disappeared from view for about 10 days, and the internet is alive with rumors that he's dead, or else he had a surgery that went wrong and he's in a coma or something like that. I'm sure Trump, who loves Kim Jong-un, as he publicly affirmed, will be more upset by the death of Kim Jong-un than he will of 57,000 Americans already. It's blatant from his manner, from his timbre, when he speaks about the death toll, that he's not in the least bit moved. And it's most severely impacting his native city. You think that might put it in perspective for him, but oh no, he couldn't give a damn. So telling people it might be a good idea to inject disinfectant, and it was interesting to him talking about it. We were saying it quite a few times. You got to remember, not everybody is wise or clever listening to this. Not everybody is sane either. So some subnormal people will hear that and think, oh, that's a good idea. He's the president. He must know what he's talking about. He's got all these world experts advising him. He's pointing to those professors of epidemiology and virology. Oh, okay, I'll go and do it then. And even though he didn't explicitly say, you must inject yourself with disinfectant, or I strongly encourage you, he was talking about doing it, and that a lot of people will just go one step further. He was 90% of the way to saying inject yourself with disinfectant, and many people will go that little bit further, and they will not be het up on the precise words he used, on any caveats that were there. And notably, it's a terrible dereliction of duty. The doctor didn't stand up and say, no, absolutely not, Mr. President, no way they can do that. That's extremely dangerous. And she should have done, because obviously what he said is going to jeopardize a lot of people. So, like, say a Down syndrome adult, or not wanting to be rude, but people who are cognitively challenged might go ahead and do this. Those with a very low reading age don't understand anything about these things. You know, I don't know the first thing about medical science, but I do know that injecting disinfectant into yourself is a seriously stupid idea. That's why there's a skull on it. Okay, for the subliterate like Donald Trump, even he would know, probably bad idea actually. Skull equals death. You know, put this into your body, death. And you imagine a child is watching this unsupervised in his or her bedroom. Oh, and they're terrified by coronavirus, and you're right to be frightened. Some children have died from it. Okay, the president says to go and do that. I'll go and do it right now. Where's the nearest disinfectant? Can they find a needle and syringe? Can they find some other way of putting it into the body? Just drinking it. And what's the difference between drinking and injecting it? I mean, the end result is the same. It gets into your body. And the lungs, the worst thing is to get. I mean, obviously, heart, lungs, and brain. So one of those goes down, you're dead pretty quick. If you inject it into your foot, maybe that wouldn't be so deadly so soon. I don't know, but I know doing anything wrong with the lungs is very worrying. People have been calling hospitals asking about it. So patently, many people took him seriously and thought that it might well be a very good idea. So Trump's got this cacothes to lie, just can't help himself. Shamelessly lying, a pathological liar, lying about easily observable facts. lying when things can be proved irrefragably, like about what he said, and this time now saying he was joking about that injecting disinfectant idea. He didn't say it in a remotely mirthful tone. Sometimes he does have that tone and that smirk when he thinks something is funny, but not then. Saying he didn't speak to Dr. Birx about it, despite being filmed and sound recorded doing just that. So Trump is so often ultra-crepidarian, saying that he's got such a marvelous understanding of coronavirus, said that a couple of months ago, that even the experts were stunned by his in-depth understanding of this disease. Nobody knows more about the Bible than me. Remember him saying that? He could have risen to the top of the military, and on, that he's a genius, that he's made billions of dollars when he's actually lost billions of dollars. And there must be something so shameful about his tax return that even he won't release it. 2016, he's saying, I can't release it because the IRS is auditing it over the next 3 years. And the IRS specifically said, no, you are permitted to release it in that time. Now that 3 years is up. It's 4 years ago, and he's still not releasing it. So he thinks that maybe even his willfully purblind followers would see that he's been lying to them. He's got nothing like as much money as they thought, or it comes from filthy sources, or there must be something that even he considers excruciatingly embarrassing, which why he's taken such strenuous efforts to conceal it. So that's why he's got people of faith on his side. They are the marks. And it's some years ago he said, well, I could go for the Republican Party because they've got the dumbest voters ever. And these are people who are irrational. In many cases, they disbelieve in evolution. They stonewall against climate change, saying it's not happening, or it's not caused by man's activities, or it's not going to harm us at all. And so on coronavirus, some of them going along with his claim that coronavirus did not exist, it was a hoax, to use his own word, or that it was going to disappear by the 12th of March, close to 0 cases. Now they're now over 1 million cases. It was going to disappear in April, when it's increased by something like 900,000 cases in April, and the month's not over. So people with low cognitive skills, with low reading age, are more likely to go for him. Now, you could be a very good and morally upstanding person, but just intellectually challenged. You could be a very clever person and deeply immoral. You could be, someone who can weasel their way out of things, lawyer your way out of the truth, might be able to trick yourself, might actually know you're lying and trick others. So a lot of people trust him, so he goes for the gullible, and it's astonishing what credulity there is out there. Even though he's just a provable fraudster again and again. Trump University, the whole thing was a fraud. He's a con man. So it's a slow motion car crash, this whole coronavirus situation. The US having 5% of the world's population and 25% of the world's coronavirus deaths already. Now, admittedly, some of these countries like China, presumably they're lying about their death toll because they lie about so many other statistics. So, which would mean that America's share of the coronavirus deaths is lower than that. Is it 20% or 15%? I don't know. But all right, 25% is probably an exaggeration. And just remember where you heard this first. Mark my words. I suspect that very soon Trump will start lying about the death toll. No, the figures are wrong. No, it's much lower than that. No, don't trust all these official statistics from my own government. Not so many people have caught it as they say. So Trump is often apoplectic when put on the spot and asked a decent question. When a journalist worth his, or even worse, her salt challenges him, he can't take it, throws the toys out of the pram, saying people are thick, or that, you're riding the crimson wave, you're a little wise guy, it's a nasty question, and not even attempting to engage with the substance of the question, because he can't, because obviously the truth reflects very badly on him. And for some reason, he feels he can't lie about these. Might be too obvious even for the Trumpists, his lies. So malice and mendacity are a bad combination, and Trump's got both in generous measure. So it seems that some people are willingly defenseless against lies, just going to swallow them. But these lies are consequential, saying that there's some sort of reason to believe that injecting disinfectant into the lungs is likely to cure it, or hydroxychloroquine, is that the word? Completely untested. I don't know that it doesn't cure it. I don't know that it's dangerous, but I do know you shouldn't do any of these things till they're signed off by the relevant authority, in this case the FDA. We don't just go experimenting on yourself because it might not cure it at all, or indeed it might cure it but have terrible side effects and possibly kill you. And coronavirus appears to only have about a 1% death rate. Obviously, if you look at the countries with excellent testing like Switzerland and Germany, the number of people who've actually died of it have been 1 or 2%. Bearing in mind, presumably there's some people out there who didn't get found, who testing didn't pick up, who had a mild case, asymptomatic, and just never presented for testing. And so the number of people actually is probably a little bit higher than we realise. I mean, has any country tested the entire population? I don't think so. So Trump, is he exploiting their psychology? Maybe there's a method to his madness. Perhaps he knows what he's doing to some point. Know these weaknesses, these blind spots in the minds of many of his acolytes. But his lack of compassion doesn't seem to bother them, and they're often Christian fundamentalists, but about Jesus, meek and mild, suffer the little children to come unto me, mercy. What about give away all your worldly goods and follow me? I wonder why Trump doesn't follow that bit of Christianity. And he doesn't give a penny to his supporters. Doesn't ever give a bean to the working class. I mean, his whole so-called charity is a sham. Is buying portraits of himself. Can you think anything more nauseating? People donating their hard-earned dollars out of genuine philanthropy for that scumbag to be spending on portraits of himself, which are not put up in a charitable institution. How on earth does he get away with it? I will never know. I mean, I think one lesson he learned very early in life, if you're rich enough, you can get away with just about anything, no matter how many times you commit the offense. Where if you're poor, if you do quite a tiny thing, it's very, very serious. And another thing I found out, you know who's always banging on about millions of illegal immigrants registered to vote and voted for Hillary Clinton? He hasn't repeated that line in a few years. No evidence of that at all. But under the Patriot Act, that the Republicans passed, falsely registering to vote is a federal felony, and you can get life imprisonment for it. Life imprisonment. Now, having said that, I don't know that anybody has been sentenced to life in prison for it. I don't know what the maximum sentence has actually been awarded for that. I don't know how often it's actually been chased up, but I would think there are very, very few people who have falsely registered to vote in the United States. It's actually very difficult to register to vote, even if you're completely legal, even if you're an American citizen, have the absolute right to vote. Anyway, so there is empowered idiocy in the White House, and it's very troubling. So here's his slogans, his catchwords. That's what he gets people with. MAGA. Hasn't mentioned that one for a long time. I wonder why not? 22 million unemployed? Now, okay, he didn't create coronavirus. It's hit every country in the world. It was going to come to the United States, even with the best president ever. And unemployment was going to rise. But it didn't need to rise by this much. The number of coronavirus cases didn't need to be so staggering high, the highest in the world. Take into account the United States has a relative very high population. Is it third highest population in the world? So, okay, but even per capita, it's pretty high. So he often emotes, he opines, he doesn't analyze Trump. He's no good at ratiocination, and I think neither are many of his supporters. There might be some very selfish ones who just say, well, tax cuts for me, I'm a multimillionaire, even that fucks everybody else, that's fine. I go along with any amount of lying or spite from him. So anyway, some people are under his spell. They're mindless tools of Trump. But I notice his approval ratings have fallen. Will they keep falling and falling? Now, he was hoping to keep it under 100,000 deaths. You were at 57,000. We're going to break that barrier soon. 200,000 was the upper limit he gave. Now, 3,000 Americans a day are dying from this. 200 days to go to the election, a little bit less actually. So on that basis, you think it'd be another 600,000 deaths. So it'd be something like 660,000 deaths by the election, unless of course trends change and the death toll is significantly reduced per day or increased. But the trouble is, about 10 states are about to open up. Now, some of these are quite small rural states with quite a diffuse population and a low population anyway, so that won't hugely increase it, but it will increase it somewhat. But one of them is Texas with an enormous population. I mean, I know it's a gigantic area and there are some remote communities, but there are also some quite major cities there. So it's going to increase the daily death toll from 3,000 up to something like 4,000, who knows? So when is it going to start coming down? And they even thought that even with an extreme lockdown, even get it down very low, reopen in June or something, it might well attack back in the autumn. That's the fall if you're American. We'll see. Because that's what the Spanish flu did. Now, just because the Spanish flu did that doesn't prove this will happen. Hey, I'd love to be wrong. I don't want it around. I don't want to die of it, or anyone I care to die of it. And I also want the convenience to be able to go wherever I want. I'd love to travel. Anyway, so wisdom, his complete unlack thereof, is a problem. So wisdom is not exactly intelligence, it is related to it. I mean, it's not just like being hyperlexic or something, or having a high mathematical ability, but making sage decisions, being willing to admit it when you're wrong, seeking information, even that makes you feel uncomfortable, not emotionalizing things, that being wise, not pursuing high-risk strategies, nor being unduly circumspect. Wisdom is a combination of these things. But foolishness is a choice for some people, and many of them have opted to go for this absolute buffoon. And he's a monstrous one. He's not just a harmless twit. He's no level rogue. He's absolutely vile. But I sometimes think this weaponized imbecility, is there a method to his madness? But no, I think this is too logical for him. It's killing ethnic minority people at a considerably higher rate than whites. Ethnic minority people much more likely to vote for the Republic, for those Democrats. So maybe think, oh well, it's gonna decimate my opponent's supporters. However, it also kills elderly people disproportionately, and elderly people break more towards the Republican Party. So swings and roundabouts. I don't know if there's going to electoral advantage to him from this. I suspect a small disadvantage. Forget about voting behaviour, but based on when people voted next time. Then looking at voting behaviour, I mean, he could scarcely have handled it worse. So obviously it's hit his approval ratings. It is going to go down. Now, I know polls tend to tighten near the race. Is he going to go up near the race? Maybe. Now, if he loses, as is increasingly likely, I mean, I now give him a 60% chance of losing. Presumably he's going to say, no, the polls are wrong. No, that's a lie. No, I won. The data is false. Yeah, you falsified it. These are fraudulent figures. In fact, I won. Hugely fake news. We'll see how he gets with that. I don't think the Republican Party will stand by him. I don't think the senators and House of Representatives, well, congressmen who are Republicans, will stand by him. Not most of them anyway. I really don't think the military will, the CIA, anyone else. So might have to be bundled bodily out the door. But what would he do on the way out? Like launch a nuclear missile? Remember, George Bush Sr. launched Operation Restore Hope, a military mission in Somalia, in the dying days of his presidency, which wasn't a terrible thing to do. I mean, it ended up as a bit of a fiasco, but there was some logic behind it. There was some benevolence behind it. However cack-handedly executed it was, didn't deliver the desired results. But anyway, so the president's spoken for 13 hours in these briefings, and the longer he speaks, seems the more things are going down. He doesn't really have these applause lines. Yeah, he's not socking it to the libs, and he's vacillating. He's not going all the way, go the whole hog. Yeah, reopen everything, or let's have a real lockdown. So he can't get his story straight. It's a communications disaster. You could want a complete libertarian, say the economy matters. It's not going to kill that many people. Now, I don't agree with that attitude, but there's a certain logic to it. But he's not going for that one. So he's humming and hawing and sitting on the fence. So he spent so much time promoting that hydroxychloroquine. I notice he's not doing it anymore. Maybe even he's got it through his thick skull, and that's a very perilous thing to do for his electoral chances. Not that he would give a damn about public health, but if his words manage to poison enough people, that might not be good for his poll ratings. I think even he might have grasped that point by now. So yes, very upset by the death of Kim Jong-un, if indeed Fat Boy Fat is dead. So what countries needed to do was bite the bullet, as some of them have done. Yeah, we're going to have the lockdown. It's going to be very tedious, very unpleasant. Economically, we're going to take a major hit, right? Take the medicine. And then if you do that properly for something like 2 months, you can open up. The drastic measures will pay dividends, and you can get the economy going a lot sooner. If you are faffing around, having a semi-lockdown in some states, no lockdown in others, a real lockdown in others, and then states are opening up, having to close back down, and when they close back down, a lot of people are going to disobey that because they're fed up of it, and the government's credibility has been undermined, and if all the information is politicized, is manipulated due to electoral calculation, then people are going to be increasingly cynical about it, and you're just unlikely to get enough public complaisance. So it'll be worse, it'll last longer, it'll kill a lot more people, and obviously wreak much more economic havoc. So that's it. Oh, well, I know America really is unfortunate to have Trump, of all people, in charge at this very testing time. So please follow me on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. I must log on to those things, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for donations on PayPal, georgecallahan79@gmail.com. And I do online lessons in English and history and politics, religious studies, law, French, anything in the humanities. I'm a tour guide in London, and get me to translate for you from French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, Romanian, and German. Sorry, not Portuguese. And anything else? Oh yeah, let me help you with a dissertation or thesis. Toodle pip.